Plan on flying? In order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a real ID. Learn how to get your real ID today at tsa.gov/real ID or visit your local DMV.
WABC New York and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Good morning, James Flippin filling in for Noam Laden on this February 11th. It's Tuesday, and here's the 3-day 77 WABC weather forecast. To get things going, later today, about a 20% chance of snow. After 4 o'clock this afternoon, it'll be cloudy, a high near 35. Winds should be mostly calm this morning. As for that snow,
winter weather alert. 77 WABC.
We are looking at less accumulation than what fell over the weekend. New York City, Long Island, Central and North Jersey shouldn't get more than an inch or two going into tomorrow afternoon. The Hudson Valley expected to get even less. South Jersey will actually get the brunt of the storm here. A winter storm watch in effect starting at 1 o'clock for southern parts of the Garden State. As much as 6 to 8 inches could fall into Wednesday afternoon. And drivers are being warned that the heaviest of the snow could hit during the evening commute. Overnight into Wednesday, snow, especially before 4 a.m. tomorrow, a low near 29. Wind chill values between 20 and 25. Tomorrow, snow is again possible during the day. Cloudy otherwise, a high near 37. And then Thursday, rain is likely. Mostly cloudy otherwise, a high near 44. 28 degrees in Midtown Manhattan, 18 degrees in West Orange, New Jersey, 24 degrees in West Hempstead on Long Island. That's the weather forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Right now, it's 27 and partly clear from our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Our top 5 headlines. Number 1, the Department of Justice preparing to drop its case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams, per reports. President Trump's plan to buy out federal workers put on pause by a federal judge. Cops are hunting for a group of robbers the NYPD calls the Rideshare Reapers. Also a sentencing in a robbery pattern that targeted gay men at bars and nightclubs. Is the Israel-Hamas hostage deal on shaky footing? We'll get the latest. And finally, a woman was hurt in a slashing at a Manhattan subway station. And those are our 77 WABC top 5 headlines at 5 a.m. James Flippin here with you. The Mayor Adams case, historic. Charges were brought against Adams last year in what was the first prosecution of a sitting mayor in New York City history. Now, the Department of Justice is set to drop the federal corruption case against Adams. That's according to a memo sent by acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Beauvais, instructing the acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District to dismiss those charges as soon as it is practicable. Beauvais is the acting number 2 official in the Justice Department, writing to prosecutors, "You are directed, as authorized by the Attorney General, to dismiss the pending charges, and there shall be no further targeting of Mayor Adams or additional investigative steps." Now, depending on what you hear or read online, I guess I should say, this is in some way connected to the Trump administration's looking at the case and determining that it's not necessarily fully fair. But then there's also the sense that Adams' prosecution might run up against their immigration enforcement, and that somehow the prosecution is going to hinder the ability for the Trump White House to carry out their deportations here in New York. Adams was charged in September of last year for allegedly accepting gifts and cash in exchange for abusing his office. There was allegations of straw donor abuses involving the Turkish government and a construction firm in Brooklyn. The DOJ memo says his indictment came too close to the mayoral primary. But that's still more than 4 months away. It also says that Adams' indictment limited his ability to cooperate with President Trump's immigration crackdown. Not clear if prosecutors in the Southern District of New York will, in fact, drop the charges or if the judge will approve them doing so. Meanwhile, Adams last night Alongside our own owner-operator, John Katsimatidis, at a restaurant, reacted to word of the charges being dropped.
We were just notified of the possibility that DOJ has communicated with the local U.S. Attorney's Office here, and we're going to find out more information. I don't have much now. I'm just sitting down now with John Katsimatidis, and I'm going to reach out to my attorney. I don't have much more information.
But your initial reaction is what?
Well, I think that I would like to speak with him first and get a better understanding of exactly what's taking place now, because right now I don't have any information. As I'm sitting here, calls are coming through, but we're looking to find out what's going on.
Okay, great. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that video was shot by Lauren Green of Fox News. WABC News Time 5:05, talking about the charges apparently going to be dropped against Mayor Adams, the first ever sitting New York City mayor to be hit with federal charges. In terms of the attempted buyout for federal workers, a pause on President Trump's buyout offer to federal employees has been extended. A federal judge in Boston extended his block yesterday that impacts over 2 million federal employees. A temporary restraining order issued. It comes after the initial buyout was paused late last week. More than 60,000 workers have accepted the offer to keep being paid through September by choosing to resign. In New York City, the NYPD is looking for a robbery crew dubbed the Rideshare Reapers. They target Uber and Lyft drivers. 22 rideshare robberies in 8 weeks have been reported in Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island, but the thieves are still at large. Meanwhile, it's a guilty verdict for the 3 men accused of drugging and robbing men in Manhattan gay bars, resulting in the deaths of 2 of them. A jury reached that decision yesterday. Deliberations kicked off on Friday. Jaquan Hamilton, Robert DeMeo, and Jacob Barroso charged with murder, robbery, burglary, and other charges. And prosecutors allege the trio used drugs after targeting drunk victims leaving gay nightclubs. President Trump says that if every Israeli hostage is not released from Gaza by Saturday, all hell will break out, and he'll call for the end of the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.
Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, it's going to be a different ballgame.
The president made those comments yesterday in the Oval Office. And then finally, rounding out our 5 at 5, a woman is recovering after being slashed inside a Manhattan subway station. That happened at the Lexington Avenue and East 86th Street station last night. Police say a suspect fled the scene in a black ski mask. He'd slashed a 28-year-old woman who's now in the hospital. And WABC News Time 5:09. James Flippin here with you this morning, filling in for Noam Layden. Out on Long Island, a daycare center worker is under arrest, accused of working while drunk and maybe high. Maria Rubino fainted on the job yesterday afternoon. The job is working with infants and toddlers at Pride and Joy Childcare on Deer Park Avenue in Babylon. As the woman was being taken by ambulance to the hospital, an EMT noticed the smell of alcohol on her breath, and the 38-year-old apparently may have been either drunk or high. Child Protective Services, local police also investigating. They say that Rubino was responsible for 5 kids at the center, all between 4 and 18 months old. A collapsed landing gear is the apparent cause of a deadly plane crash near Phoenix, Arizona, involving a jet owned by Motley Crue lead singer Vince Neil. One person was killed in that crash yesterday afternoon at Scottsdale Airport. A fire department spokesperson says 3 people were hospitalized, 2 with life-threatening injuries. Scottsdale Airport, just a few minutes' drive from where the PGA's Waste Management Phoenix Open was held over the weekend. TMZ reports Neil wasn't on the plane, but his girlfriend was. She's currently hospitalized with broken ribs. Tulsi Gabbard is a step closer to becoming the next Director of National Intelligence. She cleared a major hurdle last night when the U.S. Senate voted along party lines to advance her nomination. The final vote, whether or not to confirm the former Hawaii Congresswoman, will be held either late tonight or maybe tomorrow. Monday's vote, 52-46. Former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich is praising President Trump after receiving a full pardon. Speaking outside his home last night, Blagojevich expressed his gratitude to the president.
After 2,896 days in prison, nearly 8 years, President Trump pulled me out of there, and now he did this. And all I can tell you is that President Trump is a man who, when he sees things that are wrong, he rights them.
Blagojevich is sentencing was commuted during Trump's first term. The former Democratic governor declined to comment on rumors that he's being considered to become ambassador to Serbia this time around. He also did not discuss whether or not he might run for office again. Blagojevich, as you heard there, happy with Trump. Among those who are less happy with the president, federal workers and education advocates who are continuing their protests against the Trump White House this week. Hundreds of protesters gathered outside the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau yesterday after the agency was told to suspend operations. Critics, such as Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, a Democrat, claim the shutdown is an attempt by billionaire Elon Musk to restrict federal oversight of the U.S. financial system. The National Education Association also planning a protest against the confirmation of Education Secretary nominee Linda McMahon at the Capitol sometime this week. The MTA is launching a new app, and it's aimed at accessibility.
The MTA wants to bring instant accessibility to deaf and hard of hearing customers. MTA Chief Accessibility Officer Kamel Arroyo says the free access app called Convo provides deaf users with a live translator during customer service exchanges.
For over 200,000 New Yorkers who are deaf or hard of hearing, today we tell them that they belong, that we want them to feel safe and comfortable moving around every day.
24/7 service is available by scanning a QR code and will be available in all mobile sales vans and buses, along with LIRR and Metro North Railroad. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
And sticking with the world of transit, Lyft appears to be joining the robo-taxi game. The rideshare service, an Uber competitor, announced it's looking to launch an autonomous vehicle fleet sometime next year. Technology used by Intel-backed Mobileye will power the cars, and Dallas, Texas, will be the first market to feature them. It was back in September when Uber and Waymo revealed their plan to launch a robo-taxi service in Austin and Atlanta, Georgia, sometime this year. Uber and Lyft, probably among the apps on your phone. Among the most common for some, social media, including Facebook. But that's also a spot where people have increasingly fallen victim to Facebook hackers and scammers. Kathy Lamfier has unfortunately dealt with that. She lives in Detroit, Michigan, and says scammers have used her photos and personal information to defraud other people using Bitcoin and other investments.
So we've got pictures of my profile pictures, my children, everybody. And she's just gaining people's interest on Bitcoin and winning a new car.
Lamfier says some of them were actually able to access her bank account. The Better Business Bureau says people should never click on unknown links or visit websites that mimic Facebook to protect themselves from hackers and thieves. Out on the West Coast, there are no reports of injuries or damage after a magnitude 3.6 earthquake in California's San Bernardino County. The earthquake, centered near Highland, happened just before 10 o'clock last night. It's the third earthquake to hit the area in a span of 12 hours. The two previous quakes also did not cause any injuries or structural damage. WABC News Time, 5:15 here on the 77 WABC 5 a.m. News Hour. And he's got bells on. He's got his Eagles sneakers, Eagles jacket, Eagles shirt, everything Eagles. And he's just absolutely celebrating the champions of Super Bowl 59, those Philadelphia Eagles. Here's Justin Eller.
Yeah, I'll give it a couple days here, James Flippin.
I figured as much.
Then I'll leave you guys all alone.
All right, good.
You know? I mean, it was such a colossal beatdown that...
I mean, the game was over before it even started.
Yeah.
You're barely, enjoying your drink and sitting in your chair, and the game was over.
Oh, please. I was, sitting back, enjoying a nice little stogie, kicking my feet up, just watching the birds run roughshod.
It's usually not quite that low stress on a Super Bowl Sunday.
Well, they did all the talking on the field. I got nothing else left to say.
That's true.
Bang. There you go. 40-22. We'll take it. In the NBA here, we will start James flipping the Super Bowl. That's yesterday's news. Come on. We'll get to the ratings, though, coming up here. But we will start in the NBA on the hardwood in Brooklyn. Nick Claxton scored 16 points, and the Nets pulled away after LaMelo Ball was lost to another ankle injury as they beat the Charlotte Hornets 97-89. Cam Johnson and Daron Sharp each added 14 for the Nets, who won for the fifth time in 6 games and the best stretch of their first season under Jordy Fernandez. Up next for the Nets, they'll host Philadelphia tomorrow in their final game of the season's first half. Looking ahead to NBA action tonight, the Knicks return to the floor in Indiana against the Pacers. Tip-off there is scheduled for 7:30. Also out of the NBA, Luka Doncic scored 14 points in 24 minutes in his Lakers debut, beating the Utah Jazz in a 132-113 rout in L.A. Checking in on ice hockey in the NHL, where league play has officially been put on pause for this year's quote-unquote all-star break. Instead of having an all-star game this season, the NHL and the NHLPA are staging the Four Nations Face-Off, which will run from February 12th through February 20th. This is a round-robin tournament that will feature 4 national teams, Canada, Finland, Sweden, and the United States, with NHL players from those nations filling the rosters. Action gets underway tomorrow night in Montreal between Team Canada and Team Sweden. Team USA will open up their slate on Thursday night against Team Finland. Finally, looking back on Super Bowl 59 that was broadcast on Fox Sports. The network is projecting a Super Bowl record average audience of 126 million U.S. viewers across television and streaming platforms for Philadelphia's 40-22 victory over Kansas City on Sunday night. The game was televised by Fox, Fox Deportes, and Telemundo, and streamed on Tubi as well as the NFL's digital platforms. According to Fox, the audience peaked at 135.7 million in the second quarter. Their projections yesterday included Nielsen's early numbers and streaming data from Tubi and the NFL. Updated and more complete numbers are expected at some point today. The Eagles are planning to celebrate their Super Bowl victory over the Chiefs with a parade on Valentine's Day. It is the city of brotherly love. At the end of the day, they're flipping.
Tush push.
Team official and the city said yesterday. We're looking forward to all the good vibes coming out of Philadelphia on Friday.
Of course we are, yeah.
Especially with all the, very low-flying fireworks that were getting fired across the city.
But I saw we're only like 10. There were not really much more than I think like 50 arrests or something like that. Honestly, come on, that's light work.
Compared to 2018, it was actually a timid night.
There you go.
2018, that was your first Super Bowl in team history.
Exactly. It's like old hat now.
Right. Now we're a little bit more used to it.
Yeah, thank God they greased the poles so nobody can get up there.
Thank God.
Yeah,
right.
thank God.
You gotta grease the poles.
But then they'll just stay on the ground. They'll rip the pole out of the ground, and then they'll carry it throughout the city. I don't know if you saw.
Be innovative. Good
there
job.
You go. Wow. That's your sports gnome, James Flippin. Right back to you, buddy.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the kind of savagery that we expect when it comes to Philadelphia sports. Right, Joe Nolan? And we're going to tune to WABC News Time, 5:21. James Flippin here, filling in for Noam Laden. Today, President Trump is set to hold talks with the King of Jordan. King Abdullah II will be the first Arab leader to visit Trump in the White House since the start of the second term. The meeting comes after President Trump floated a controversial proposal for the U.S. to take over the Gaza Strip and resettle Palestinians living in the territory to neighboring countries such as Jordan and Egypt. And we've also heard that hostage deal ongoing between Israel and Palestine is on some shaky footing now. President Trump basically putting his foot down and saying that these hostages in Gaza need to be released by Saturday or the entire thing could be off. Well, right now, the idea of the U.S. taking over the Gaza Strip has been rejected by King Abdullah of Jordan. But Trump is, again, saying he's doubling down here and threatened to withhold aid to those countries if they don't go along with the plan. You can rank this among the type of stories you just don't have in the Middle East. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is directing the military to put a pause on the recruitment of new transgender individuals.
Hegseth is also ordering a suspension of planned procedures for current service members with gender dysphoria. It comes along with President Trump's executive order that essentially bans trans military service. Hegseth wrote in a memorandum for senior Pentagon leadership, efforts to split our troops along the lines of identity weaken our force and make us vulnerable. I'm Lisa Taylor.
And this is a mayoral election year for us here in New York City. We told you earlier this morning that the DOJ, the Southern District of New York, appears ready to drop its federal charges against Mayor Adams, charges that have alleged bribery and corruption. Well, Curtis Sliwa, well known to us here at 77 WABC, of course, ran on the Republican side last time. Now he's picked up an endorsement for mayor from the Staten Island GOP. Speaking of Staten Island, New York City Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, she was a signee to that letter endorsing Sliwa for mayor. She's also staying busy introducing two bills that would reduce the tax burden on America's seniors. The first one would boost bonus deductions for seniors 65 and up from just under $2,000 a year to $5,000. For married couples, deductions would go from $3,100 to $10,000. And her second bill would double the amount of income that's tax exempt for seniors from $25,000 to $50,000 for single filers, $32,000 to $64,000 for married senior tax filers. Staten Island Republican Malliotakis is on the House Ways and Means Committee and says she has bipartisan support here. In finance, U.S. stocks finished higher yesterday. The market shrugged off concerns tied to tariffs and any potential trade wars. The tech sector was a high point on Wall Street, but zooming out, the market is on edge, Wall Street watchers say, amid a mix of inflation concern as well as uncertainty as to how Trump's plan for tariffs will play out and impact the economy as a whole. The White House eyeing blanket tariffs of 25% for steel and aluminum. Today, the NFIB Small Business Optimism Index for January is due. Also, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell heading to the Hill to begin 2 days of testimony before Congress, focusing on the state of the economy. And that appearance for Powell comes as tech billionaire Elon Musk, head of the Trump Department of Government Efficiency, appears to be backing the idea of former Congressman Ron Paul replacing Powell as the Federal Reserve Chair. President Trump just slammed the central bank last month and blamed Powell for not doing enough to stop inflation. He did name Powell as Fed chair in his first term. And checking some company-specific news this morning, we said that it was a strong session for tech yesterday. Chip makers such as NVIDIA, Broadcom, and Micron finished higher. Mega-cap tech stocks also gained, Alphabet, Amazon, and Microsoft among them. But this is a down note for tech. It's the end of the line for thousands of Meta employees. The Facebook and Instagram parent began handing pink slips out yesterday in an effort to eliminate about 5% of its workforce. Around 3,600 employees expected to be let go. In connection to tariffs, steel and aluminum stocks popped. U.S. Steel, Nucor, Cleveland-Cliffs, and Alcoa all traded higher. McDonald's fell short of expectations for quarterly revenue after weaker sales following an E. coli outbreak weeks into that period. Those E. coli outbreaks affecting slivered onions and quarter pounders. But the fast food giant's share price rose over 4%. Executives delivered an upbeat forecast for sales in 2025. Well, we just touched on this. Billionaire Elon Musk, the world's richest man, appears to be supporting an idea for former Congressman Ron Paul to replace Jerome Powell as Federal Reserve Chair. Of course, the richest man in the world, Musk, is the head of Doge, and he supported a post from conservative commentator Charlie Kirk saying the 89-year-old Paul would be good in the position. Paul is a longtime critic of the Fed who previously ran for president 3 times as a libertarian and then as a Republican. His son Rand is a sitting senator in Kentucky. This after Trump, as we mentioned, was critical of the central bank recently. There's a call for the insurance claims of wildfire victims to be paid without itemizing what was lost in the fire.
Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara is encouraging insurance companies to make full payments to claimants who suffered losses in the Eaton and Palisades fires. The commissioner is also asking insurance companies to report back to his office by the end of the month to indicate whether they are on board with his plan. Current California law requires insurance companies to pay at least an initial payment without a complete inventory of lost items. I'm Phil Hewlett.
WABC News Time is 5:29. James Flippin filling in for Noam Laden this morning. And when we come back, changes for the subway of a live from New York City type of way, shocking allegations from South Carolina lawmaker Nancy Mace, whistleblower protections in Washington, D.C., and the latest on the potential for dropped charges against Mayor Eric Adams. All that and more coming up on the 77 WABC 5 a.m. News Hour.
The 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
On 77 WABC. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
And good morning. It's James Flippin in for Noam on this February 11th, a Tuesday. Your 3-day 77 WABC weather forecast. Later today, a 20% chance of snow after 4 o'clock this afternoon. Cloudy today, a high near 35. Winds mostly calm this morning. As for the snow, looking at less accumulation than what fell over the weekend. New York City, Long Island, Central and North Jersey, probably looking at around an inch or two. The Hudson Valley, maybe even less. South Jersey, actually expected to get the brunt of the storm, but drivers should be advised the heaviest of the snow could hit during the evening commute. Overnight into Wednesday, snow, especially approaching dawn tomorrow, the low near 29, wind chill values between 20 and 25. Snow is possible during the day tomorrow, and then rain on Thursday. That's the weather forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. So last night, word broke the historic charges against Mayor Eric Adams could be dropped. And days before, the Trump Justice Department issued a memo to that effect. Mayor Adams apparently told police officials and other top officials not to criticize the president, not to interfere with immigration enforcement. That order, multiple sources report to the news outlet The City, came at an in-person meeting late on Friday at City Hall. After a conversation with a group that included the police commissioner, schools chancellor, social services commissioner, and others, Mayor Adams reportedly told them to stop complaining, not to criticize Trump, and to trust that he'll make sure the city doesn't lose its federal grants. Trump and his administration have been threatening to withhold funds to the city over its, quote, sanctuary city status, and sanctuary city in this respect having to do with the fact that the immigration officials and the New York City cops don't really talk to each other. A Torah is now dedicated to a Long Island native who lost his life overseas. People gathered at the Midway Jewish Center of Syosset yesterday to remember Omer Nutra of Plainview, New York. He was working as a platoon commander with Israeli Defense Forces when he was killed during the Hamas terrorist attacks in October of 2023. To date, his body has not been returned to the United States. The war in Gaza responsible for more than 1,200 deaths. And there is an ongoing Hamas hostage release deal in which those held in Gaza are supposed to be turned back over to Israeli authorities. But as of now, Hamas is basically saying that Israel has violated some terms. Things are on hold. President Trump has threatened that all hell will break loose if the hostages are not released by Friday. Back home, shocking allegations from South Carolina lawmaker Nancy Mace yesterday. Representative Mace accused her ex-fiancé and 3 business partners of committing depraved sexual crimes against herself and a dozen other women, including underage girls. This was an explosive remarks that she delivered from a podium in the House of Representatives chamber. The South Carolina Republicans said she came forward with the shocking allegations of assault, voyeurism, and abuse after uncovering a trove of more than 10,000 videos and other photographic evidence contained on a phone owned by her former husband-to-be, Patrick Bryant. Here's Mace talking from the House floor.
One night in 2022, I found myself at a property owned by Patrick Bryant and Brian Musgrave on the Isle of Palms in South Carolina. Business partners Patrick Bryant and Eric Bowman were both there. I was served 2 small vodka sodas, like this glass right here, 2 small vodka sodas, like anyone would have at their neighborhood restaurant. A short time later, I blacked out. I have never blacked out after having a vodka soda or any adult beverage ever.
And Mace has talked about being a victim in the past. As a matter of fact, the controversial issue over transgender bathrooms at the Capitol building, and there was a transgender representative who was elected out of Delaware, and then some back and forth over whether or not people should use the bathroom assigned with their biological gender, and that was something that started at the beginning of the term. Mace said she accidentally uncovered some of the most heinous crimes imaginable, and she says they're talking about rape, non-consensual photos, and non-consensual videos of women and underage girls. Have to follow that story as that develops. News time, 5:39, and I'm James Flippin here on 77 WABC. So bumping off of Joe's report, let's talk mass transit, because here in New York City, as of yesterday, taking the subway will look and sound a little different.
It's Saturday Night Live.
Through Sunday, announcements recorded by SNL cast member Kenan Thompson will be played in more than 400 subway stations.
I'm going to keep it real with you with the do's and don'ts of the subway. Do pay the fare. I see you trying to jump the turnstiles. Stop it right now. I'm serious. Just tap your phone and keep it moving.
It's all part of a promotion ahead of Saturday Night Live's 50th anniversary special. The live 3-hour special will air at 8 p.m. Sunday on NBC and will be simulcast on Peacock. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
And you've heard Joe Nolan talking about this in traffic today. Another sinkhole, again, causing issues on Interstate 80 in Morris County, New Jersey, at the identical spot where the first one opened in December.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's dangerous. Someone that can fall in, die, you never know. So might as well close the highway and take control.
The first sinkhole, the one that caused traffic nightmares for days in Wharton at exit 34 of I-80, opened up due to an old abandoned iron mine. It was filled in and repaved, but the Department of Transportation says drivers spotted the center lane buckling early yesterday morning, and so DOT shut down all eastbound I-80 lanes, detouring traffic to Route 15. Pop's Bagels is on the Route 15 detour route, offering a consolation prize to frustrated drivers.
We're doing any size coffee for 80 cents. For Route 80 closure, 80-cent coffee.
That's cute. The first sinkhole was the size of a 4-story building, closing the highway for 4 days while it was fixed. No word yet on a time frame this time around. Okay, this is the easiest assignment you'll have all day. It's health advice as well. Italian researchers say you should pet your dog before you leave the house.
Researchers at the University of Pisa in Italy found if you pet your dog one last time before racing out the door, it will reduce anxiety for your pet and you, because petting a dog for 5 minutes lowers the stress hormone cortisol and increases oxytocin. That's the feel-good hormone. Research shows it's a win-win for all. I'm Bree Tennis.
And speaking of the animal kingdom, paleontologists say they found a fossilized skull of the oldest known modern bird, this in Antarctica, the 68 million year old creature related to the Vegavis ai, which are now extinct. Scientists say the bird resembles modern-day loons and waterfowls. The fossil finding allowed researchers to study how some animals can survive catastrophic events. Senate Democrats are launching a portal for whistleblowers to report the Trump administration's alleged abuses of power.
Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and top Democrat on the Homeland Security Committee Gary Peters are leading the charge. They wrote in a letter to federal civil service employees and public servants, "We are prepared to issue demand letters, preserve public records, and pursue legal action where necessary." They noted the Whistleblower Protection Act bans any retaliation against federal workers who tip off wrongdoing. I'm Brian Shook.
Out in California, a man who participated in an immigration protest on the 101 freeway over the weekend faces criminal charges. Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman detailing what Martin Torres is accused of.
He threw books, objects,
onto the oncoming freeway traffic. One of them actually making contact with a vehicle while he was up there. And he also engaged in felony vandalism of the Los Angeles street sign itself. These charges carry a maximum sentence of years in state prison.
Hochman says lawful protests are protected by law.
However, for the people who basically want to use the protests as a cover to commit criminal activity, when people's words or actions cross that line into criminal behavior, we will go after that criminal behavior.
District Attorney Hochman says Torres faces years in state prison if convicted. He reminds people that while lawful protests are protected, once a protester crosses the line into criminal activity, they'll be arrested and face possible felony charges. Hochman with this final warning for protesters.
That if you want to do it lawfully and you want to comply with the various laws and ordinances that are applicable to such protests, we will not only allow that to happen, we will protect your right to do it. And if you think you can throw books as part of a protest onto oncoming traffic, you are wrong.
A new law in Illinois is designed to take guns out of the hands of accused domestic abusers. Governor Pritzker signed Karina's law yesterday.
Karina's law will protect survivors of domestic violence and give them comfort, the comfort of knowing that their abuser will not have easy access to firearms.
The law requires law enforcement to confiscate guns within 96 hours from people who have an order of protection granted against them. The law is named after Karina Gonzalez, a mom from Chicago, her husband charged with shooting and killing her and her 15-year-old daughter in 2023. And at that time, Gonzalez had an order of protection in place against her husband. WABC News Time, 5:45. Justin Ellick is in place now to give us the latest in sports.
Well, thank you, James. We'll start here. On the NBA hardwood in Brooklyn, Nick Claxton scored 16 points, and the Nets pulled away after LaMelo Ball was lost to another ankle injury as they beat the Charlotte Hornets 97-89. Cam Johnson and Daron Sharp each added 14 for the Nets, who won for the fifth time in 6 games in the best stretch of their first season under Jordi Fernandez. This was their second easy victory over Charlotte during that span. With 1 game to go until the All-Star break, the Nets have now won consecutive games at home for the first time this season. Up next for them, they'll host Philadelphia tomorrow in their final game of the season's first half. Looking ahead to NBA action tonight, the Knicks return to the floor in Indiana against the Pacers. Tip-off there is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. Also out of the NBA, Luka Doncic scored 14 points in 24 minutes in his Lakers debut, beating the Utah Jazz in a 132-113 rout in L.A. Checking in on ice hockey and the NHL, where league play has officially been put on pause for this year's quote-unquote All-Star break. Instead of having an All-Star game this season, the NHL and NHLPA are staging the Four Nations Face-Off, which will run from February 12th through February 20th. This is a round-robin tournament that will feature 4 national teams, Canada, Finland, Sweden, and the United States, with NHL players from those nations filling the rosters. The top 2 teams in the standings after round-robin play will compete in the championship game on February 20th. The points system for the round-robin will include 3 points for a regulation win, 2 points for a win in overtime or a shootout, and 1 point for a loss in overtime and a shootout, and 0 points for a regulation loss. Action gets underway tomorrow night in Montreal between Team Canada and Team Sweden. Team USA will open up their slate on Thursday night against Team Finland. Finally, looking back on Super Bowl 59 that was broadcast on Fox Sports, the network is projecting a Super Bowl record average audience of 126 million U.S. viewers across television and streaming platforms for the Eagles' 40-22 victory over Kansas City on Sunday night. The game was televised by Fox, Fox Deportes, and Telemundo, and streamed on Tubi, as well as the NFL's digital platforms. According to Fox, the audience peaked at 135.7 million in the second quarter. Fox's projections yesterday included Nielsen's early numbers and streaming data from Tubi and the NFL. Updated and more complete numbers are expected at some point today. The Eagles are planning to celebrate their Super Bowl victory over the Chiefs with a parade on Valentine's Day on Friday, a team official and the city said yesterday. That is your sports, James, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
James Flippin filling in for Noam Laden on this Tuesday morning. And here in New York, the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show is back underway. Around 2,500 dogs representing more than 200 breeds taking part in the annual event, culminating in the coveted Best in Show later tonight. The preliminaries took place over the weekend with Vanish the Border Collie winning the Agility Championship. Willie the Australian Shepherd clinched the Obedience Championship. Pop star Ed Sheeran was allegedly not so obedient. Cops in India just shut down his street performance.
I'm in love with the shape of you. We let the story begin. We're going out on our first date.
Yeah, authorities in India, I guess, not in love with the sound of Ed Sheeran. It was on Sunday when the singer gave a street performance in southern India, but it was shut down by local cops. According to the Times of India, it was because Sheeran did not request permission. In a video, you can see the police interrupting his performance by unplugging his instruments. And taking to his Instagram, the Shape of You singer said his crew did have permission to play. Crooner Ed Sheeran knows all about love songs, and with Valentine's Day right around the corner, what better time to get petty revenge on an ex and do some good at the same time?
A number of zoos around the country are offering the opportunity to name something after an ex, and that something will be fed to a zoo animal. At the San Antonio Zoo, for example, you can name a cockroach, rodent, or even a vegetable. At the Lehigh Valley Zoo in Pennsylvania, you can name a fish for feeding to a penguin. And in Fort Worth, a donation will get you a pound of poop to dedicate to an ex. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
How mature. A 5-alarm fire in a New Jersey apartment building Sunday afternoon, creating chaos and uncertainty for 60 people. They've been burned out of their homes in Bogota in Bergen County. Flames ripped through the West View Towers on Palisade Avenue, causing the building's roof to collapse.
These women and these men have nothing. No pocketbooks, no wallets. They all came out with literally just the clothes on their back.
And the Red Cross is now asking the public for help while it puts people up in shelters and hotels. Fortunately, no one was hurt in the fire. There's no word yet on the cause. Officials in Huntington, Texas want to know why an ambulance exploded at a stoplight. This happened late last week. A patient was being transported in the ambulance. The unit at a red light in Huntington. When the explosion happened, the engine caught fire. A witness tried to put the fire out with an extinguisher, but was unsuccessful. So a Huntington fire truck happened to be passing by, returning from another call. They were able to put out the fire. The patient removed from the vehicle before the fire reached the back compartment. And a court is blocking the Trump administration from sending a group of migrants to Guantanamo Bay.
U.S. District Judge Kenneth Gonzalez temporarily stopped 3 Venezuelan migrants' transfer. He said in a filing that ICE was holding them in New Mexico. They began fighting their detention before Trump was elected president and raised the issue of the Guantanamo transfer over the weekend after the White House began to transfer other Venezuelans depicting similar characteristics. The judge noted that his decision is specific to these 3 migrants. I'm Brian Shook.
And coming up in less than 10 minutes, we'll have Sid and Friends in the morning with host Sid Rosenberg. We're going to cycle through our top 5 headlines here on the 5 a.m. News Hour. Mayor Eric Adams. It was history last September when he was indicted on charges of alleged bribery and corruption. Now, the Department of Justice is set to drop that case. Per reports, a memo was sent out by acting Deputy Attorney General Emile Beauvais, instructing the acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District to dismiss the charges as soon as practicable. Depending on what you read, this is as a result of the Trump White House attempting to ensure that deportation operations can carry out unencumbered in New York. Also, there is some reporting that the Trump White House found the case against Adams to be somewhat unfair. Last night, the mayor reacted to the news alongside our own 77 WABC owner-operator John Catsimatidis as Adams was with John at a restaurant.
We were just notified of the possibility that DOJ has communicated with the local U.S. Attorney's Office here, and we're going to find out more information. I don't have much now. I'm just sitting down now with John Catsimatidis, and I'm going to reach out to my attorney. I don't have much more information.
But your initial reaction is what?
Well, I think that I would like to speak with him first and get a better understanding of exactly what's taking place now, because right now I don't have any information. And as I'm sitting here, calls are coming through, but we're looking to find out what's going on.
Okay, great. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that video was taken by Lauren Green of Fox News. A pause on President Trump's buyout offer to federal employees has been extended by a federal judge in Boston. Labor unions have challenged that buyout plan. It offers employees pay through September if they choose to resign. More than 60,000 federal workers have reportedly taken Trump up on the offer. The NYPD is looking for a robbery crew they've dubbed the Rideshare Reapers because they target Uber and Lyft drivers. 22 rideshare robberies reported in 8 weeks across Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. One rideshare driver told NBC4 New York the robber stole his phone, $500 from a bank account, and even tried to use Zelle to steal $1,500 from another account. And meanwhile, it's a guilty verdict for 3 men accused of drugging and robbing men in Manhattan gay bars, resulting in the death of 2 of them. A jury reached that decision yesterday. Jaquan Hamilton, Robert DeMeo, and Jacob Barroso had been charged with murder, robbery, burglary, and other charges, accused in 5 robberies and 2 fatal overdoses between March of 2021 and July of 2022. President Trump says if every Israeli hostage is not released from Gaza by Saturday, all hell will break out, and he'll call for the end of the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas.
Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, it's going to be a different ballgame. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out, and I don't think they're going to do it.
As of yesterday, Hamas has threatened to postpone any further hostage prisoner exchanges, alleging a break in terms from Israel. Finally, here at 5 a.m., a woman is being recovered after being slashed inside a Manhattan subway station. That happened at the Lexington Avenue and East 86th Street station last night, as cops say a suspect wearing a black ski mask slashed a 28-year-old woman inside the station, then fled the scene on foot. The victim hospitalized. No arrests have been made. Thank you, Joe, and good morning. It's coming up on 5:59 here on the 77 WABC 5 a.m. News Hour. And we turn now to not quite yet, Mr. Rosenberg. What a nightmare. What a disaster.
Somebody's ready to go, clearly.
But Justin, the executive producer, is going to tell us what to expect.
Well, I might just do that there, James. Flippin'. Well, coming up on your Tuesday edition of...
it is my job to talk.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know what? You take it away. My God, excuse me. No, he doesn't have the lineup. It's, I gotta deliver it here. Flippin'. 6:30 kicking us off on this Tuesday installment. Sid and Friends of the Morning. We got Ina Vernikov right before Christine Schulte joins us at right around 6:45, 6:50 this morning. She'll hop on for a few minutes. She's got that special Westchester County executive election going on today, so we'll get her on. Trump just recently endorsed her as well. Curtis Lewa will join us live in studio at 7:15, as is the case every day, right before editor-in-chief of the Great National Review. It's Richard Lowry. He'll hop on at 7:45. Laura Trump will join us in the 8 a.m. hour, right around 8:25, right before the great Judge Janine Pirro hops on for her weekly hit with Sid at 8:45 this morning. And in the 9 a.m. hour, welcome in the beautiful Emily Austin. It's all coming up, your Tuesday edition flipping of Sid and Friends in the Morning, coming at you in just a few short moments.
All right, today, the DOJ appears ready to drop its charges against Mayor Adams. President Trump will hold talks with the King of Jordan, a collapsed landing gear, the apparent cause of a deadly plane crash in Arizona. And just because I don't want to hear him at noon, Curtis Lewa has picked up an endorsement from the Staten Island GOP for mayor. I'm James Flippin, filling in for Noam on the 77 WABC 5 a.m. News Hour.
This is what number 1 sounds like.
Number 1. It was a great reaction.
We got involved.
It's a powerful message.
Number 1.
The stories behind the stories.
What?
The story is so close to me.
No matter what. 77 WABC.